We'll just give a few more minutes before we start for people to join. Just wait 1 more minute, and then we'll kick it off. Okay. All right, I think we waited long enough. Let's go ahead and kick our second webinar off. On today's session, we're going to be going over product next. I just want to get a thumbs up from anyone that has a microphone on to tell me that you can hear me okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so just give me a second. Oh, more people are joining in. Cool. All right. So before we kick this off, I just want to kind of start off this webinar by introducing myself. My name is Oz Ackman. I am the Director of Onboarding at Softrip. Just personal about me is I've been married for 20 years. I have 2 kids. I have a teenage son who just got his permit, which is quite exciting. And I have a 9-year-old daughter who's very much still into like being not a teenager. I have 17 plus years of travel industry experience. I wore so many hats over the years that I no longer have hair. And very a quick fun fact about me, I once met the Prime Minister of Turkey in 1991, where he and I both had broken arms coming out of a wedding. So if you want to know more about that, join our next session. Maybe I'll open that up for a 30-second bid, okay? Let's click on this next. Come on, move. All right, so about the webinar, I just want to let everyone know that the webinar is being recorded and later on will be available in our knowledge base. This session is going to be about 45 to 50 minutes of narration, and then we will have 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A via Teams messaging. Questions that we're not able to answer, just keep on posting those questions. If we cannot get to them, we will send out responses in writing after the session. And then we will also follow up with a quick survey. If you guys could please answer that with a quick questionnaire about, overall how did the webinar meet your expectations? What else would you like to see down the line? If there's any room for improvement, we can take those on, okay? So on our agenda today, we're going to be talking about building a product, a regular package, right? And we're going to be going over pricing profiles, departure dates and prices, calculation of costs and selling prices, right? We have functionality such as product audit, right? Mass add, remove optionals, product price history. This is something that we introduced new on our next platform. And then how do we go ahead and navigate and edit the product itself, right? And at the end of the day, when we're trying to build a product, right, we essentially want to come to a landing page and introduce a landing page to our customers where they can see some of that key information, right? But at the core of it, what we want to present here is basically what properties that we're staying in, what are the departures, right, and an itinerary, right? So to make it a little bit more presentable. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to accomplish on this webinar. So when we're looking at it, from the very top down, right, it all starts with the suppliers, right? Here's a little diagram that I have drawn out. And under the suppliers, what do we have is services, right? A supplier could have multiple services. It could be a standard room, junior suite. It could be the restaurants, that they offer, right? And under each services, right, what we have is what we call the rate periods, as you know. And in these rate periods, we have seasonality rates that we can go ahead and load in Softrip application, right? And at the end of the day, what we want to do is take these components, right, and and combine them into our products, right? To take all those components with their services and rates, right, and then calculate a proper cost, and then present it at a selling price based on your company policy of what your markup may be. Okay, so just kind of to set the playing field here. So let's go ahead and close this PowerPoint and let's jump onto our product application. Okay. All right, so this is our product application. And in order to get to the product application, when you first log into your calendar, all you have to do is hover over the product menu, go down to products, and click on products. And then the system will go ahead and open up this product search screen. One thing that is always consistent in our application is you have your product search that is going to be on the left-hand panel, where we have what we call autocomplete searches. And then your grid view is going to be more in the center of the stage here. When we go ahead and click on search in here, you're going to have some results returned. Okay. Now, there's a few functionality that we introduce in Softrip next. Overall, anywhere where there's a grid, we introduce a functionality called grid settings. Okay. And grid settings allows us to basically change the column orders in the way that you want based on your own user preference. Anywhere we have a grid throughout the system, we have introduced this functionality overall. Okay, I just want to kind of pass that information real quick. So it's a nice functionality that we have. To get to the grid settings, we'll just click on the product grid settings. You can pick and choose the columns that you want to display, right? So if you did not want to see, for some reason, let's say date specific as an option in here, you can uncheck that. And then if you want to go ahead and move market code all the way to the top, you can go ahead and drag and drop that onto the top of the section and then save it. And then this information will be saved based on my own preference as needed. Now, in order for me to go ahead and reset this, I go back to that screen again, click on Restore Defaults, click on Save, and now we have our original system default setting as we needed. So if you want to go ahead and make some changes to see the relevant information that is important to you, you can go ahead and manage that in here. One other thing that is always consistent in our system is how we go ahead and add new information into our system. We will always have a little plus sign on the top left corner in order to add more data into your grid, right? And will also have a little trash can if you want to go ahead and remove that data from the system as well. So in this session, we're going to be talking about building a regular package, right? And I'm going to walk through that process with basically starting off with by clicking on the plus sign, which basically opens up our product header section. Anywhere that is indicated in asterisk in red means that it is a required field and we must enter it in. If you do not enter that in, the system will throw a warning saying that you must enter this data, okay? So what I'll do in this scenario is I'm going to go ahead and build a sample product and walk you guys through that process, okay? So let's do 6-day Ireland, okay? And we'll do a 6-day Ireland package. Okay. You have other parameters such as your tour offsets if you're doing international flights, though none of that data has changed. If you are going to be working with escorted tours, that information could apply in here too. If you did offer travel insurance, that's an option that you can select for the package. And then you have your status, right? When it's in loading, means that you're unloading your initial building stage. And then you have other parameters such as your departure dates from and to, your market code, number of days the package is for, and to what date range you want to make this package available for sale. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill some of that information. So we'll make our departures from October 3 until January 1st. And then we'll do this until January 1st also. We'll say Ireland, and we'll just do an Ireland FIT, and then it's a 6-day package. As soon as I go ahead and click on save, the system will go ahead and commit that change. But before I continue, I just want to also kind of touch up on our pre and post accommodation section. When you click on the pre and post accommodation, we still offer in Next platform the same functionality as we had done, which is to use the first hotel on the package as an option. You could use a specific product, or you can use a specific service from another product. Okay, so we have those options remaining in place and functions as intended. We'll go ahead and click on save, and now we have built basically the framework of our product, right? So once you get to the results here, once I created my product header, I will have a little button here where I can click on it, where I have access to the edit header section if I want to make some changes, right? And then I have my manage product, which will give me access to the details of our product. We still offer the copy as new functionality, which you can take an existing product, copy it as new, and relabel it and make modifications. Delete it, or preview website, which will take you to the landing page. Okay, so let's go ahead and manage the product and talk about what that looks like. So as you can see, when we first come into the product application itself, on the left-hand side, we have our tree view navigation. Okay, the first menu option that we have here is the plans and services. And then we can deep dive into dates and prices, which we have access to our pricing profiles, departure dates and prices. We introduced a new screen called Price History, which tracks records of who made updates to your prices, which is something that we haven't had before. We have little shortcut options to booking rules, product promotions. There's a product audit option also that basically validates the data that you have entered in is correct, right? And then we have a new process for building our daily itineraries. And we have access to our CMS pages. And then we have our operation menus. And then we also have our mass changes and then air info, which is probably going to be a separate webinar by itself because it's quite a robust functionality we have. Okay. Now, if we're talking about this view here right now, a few things to bring up here is, as you can see, we have what we call a quick search option, right? We have ways to go ahead and group services based on different types, and I will kind of show those to you as I build my itinerary, right? And then, and let's go ahead and start building our product details, right? We want to start adding some components to our product so we can go ahead and sell it, right? So what we want to do is probably in the scenario is we want to add a hotel service, we want to add a transfer, maybe an excursion, okay? So in order for me to go ahead and add this, when I click on the add a row, the system is going to go ahead and bring me to two search options in here. One is what we call searcher for services that exist already in your system, okay? And we have a number of filters here. You can search for services based on supplier ID, based on a service ID, service type, right? And you have your different service statuses, such as you want to search for custom services that was built for your custom groups, right? We have ways to go ahead and do that, and so on. Now, the other path that we have also is that you can copy components by searching for an existing product that you already have. So you can take, let's say, a 9-day Ireland program that we had built, search for those results, get those components in place, and copy those into your existing product that you wish to bring in. So in this sample, though, we're going to go through basically adding manual services, basically through the one by one. And as you can see, the look of this screen is a little bit different compared to what we've had in the past, right? So on the top section in here is where we display our search results based on our search execution, right? So if I want to go ahead and search for hotels, right, click on search, the system is going to give me the results for all the hotel services that has already been built in our system. But let's say if I want to go ahead and search for hotels in a certain destination, I can apply my filter for Dublin, click on search, and as you can see, I have a hotel that came back as part of that result. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on search again. Now, the second part of this is what we call our, what I would like to call it is more of our itinerary builder section. Okay, and inside itinerary builder section is we're going to start adding these components one by one and build our itinerary based on what day you want them to be on, what is the duration of those services, and so on. So let me walk you through that process real quick. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to search for a hotel in Ireland called Messbill. And I'm going to go ahead and add a standard room. And as you can see now, that service has been added in here. The next step I'm going to take is I'm going to go ahead and add a transfer. I'm going to go ahead and search for transfers, but let's get rid of the Messbill Hotel as a filter. And then let's go ahead and add these services that are transfers, right? And then let's go ahead and add an excursion. And as you can see, as I keep on searching in here, I have components returning that allows me to go ahead and pick and choose items that I want to go ahead and or add into my itinerary. So in this scenario, we don't have one in Dublin, seems like, but I will just go ahead and I will add an awesome tour here. Okay. So as I add these components, right, if I made a mistake and I added the component by accident, I can right click and remove that row from my itinerary if I ever wanted to. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing that you have here is that we can go ahead and start defining on what day these services are going to be starting off in, right? So if I have my hotel on day 1, right, my transfer on arrival is going to be on day 1 too, let's say, and then my departure transfer is going to be on day 6, and maybe I'm going to go ahead and offer this excursion as on day 3. The duration of the service dictates how long it is for. So we'll say it is for 5 nights, and then transfers are 1 day, right? And then so is the tour, right? And in here we have basically all the definitions of what the item roles are, right? So we can make it as required, which is going to be included as part of your product, right? Or you can have different item roles that we can go ahead and select. In this scenario, we'll go ahead and add optional service in here for the sightseeing. It'll be an add-on value. We'll go ahead and click on confirm. And once I go ahead and click on confirm, the system is giving me a warning saying that, hey, one of my components is not working. The date ranges is not well, but I will go ahead and proceed on for this webinar. Now, once I go ahead and save that information, as you can see, right, and then click on save all my components have been added now into my plans and services, right? Now, in order for me to go ahead and make some changes on these services that I already have added to, I have the opportunity to go ahead and make these specific changes within the grid in here. So you have some quick access to make changes. Standard room with breakfast. We can make the description of that service a little bit different, and I'll call it Oz at the end here. So now that service is gonna, when we're booking it, it's gonna have that little tag with my name on it. Okay. Other items you can change in here too, such as invoice flag while you're on the grid, right? So there's a number of functionalities that we have. Other functionalities that we also have here is what we call mass changes, right? So if you ever want to go ahead and update multiple services at a time, you just simply select the row, click on this little arrow key that indicates a mass change option, which opens up a window where we can go ahead and enter in a new value and click on save later, and that information will save on your changes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and discard here for now. So another way to go ahead and modify some of these items is when we click on this menu option, we have a number of menu options that we offer. Little shortcuts, adding a new plan, editing a service, deleting a service we can copy as new, little jump tos, right? A lot of the functionalities that we already had in the past. When I click on this edit option for this specific service, the system will open up a bottom form in here where it allows me to make more detailed changes that I didn't have access right on the grid right in here. Okay, so I can make more other detailed changes, such as I can replace a supplier, I can add link codes, right? If I want to go ahead and do that, I can do that on the grid or in here if I wanted to, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump onto our pricing profiles. Now, the system will go ahead and generate a pricing profile in here. And once you go ahead and generate that pricing profile, it'll basically go through the regular process, right? We have, your product code. You can create your pricing profiles based on all services, or you can change your pricing profile based on different components, such as if you had a sightseeing service that you wanted to do a different markup versus a transfer service with a different markup, you have an opportunity to create multiple pricing profiles and apply that to your costing. You have your quote currency, you have your sell methods, and then you have your markup formulas. Just a reminder, Softrip does offer solutions to round up, right? So if your cost is coming up at, let's say, 785.62, right? And then based on your markup, your price is coming up as, let's say, 1,092.30. We do have ways to automatically round up based on these formulas to offer that package price at 1,099, let's say, right? So the system will automatically up those numbers so it'll look more presentable at the end of the day. So the next area that I want to go ahead and jump onto is how do we go ahead and create departure dates and prices. So when we come into this grid again, right, we can go ahead and click on the little plus sign. And in this section, we have ways to go ahead and create a single departure, right? If it's just one date that you want to create for a package, right, by simply selecting that date. Or you can do it based on a date range. So we have ways to go ahead and do this by add departure days individually, meaning that, hey, I want every day to be a departure in the system. We can do that. We can do it based on certain days of the week. So if I wanted to do, let's say, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday departure, I can select those. I can do it so that it is every 3 days, right? Regardless. So if your first day starts on a Tuesday, the next departure will be on a Friday, for example, right? It'll be certain day intervals. And then, of course, you also have the function to go ahead and add departure as a date range, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create these departure dates. And I'm just going to do 2 days in here and click on add. As soon as I did that, as you can see, all my departure dates have been created. And I'm going to click on save all. Now the system has built all those departure dates for me automatically. Now, when we're looking at this here, you have options to go ahead and export this information, one thing, but you also have ways to go ahead and group these based on different plans, based on masks. If you introduce multiple masks, right, as you're creating your departure dates, you can go ahead and with / add multiple masks to create multiple departure dates, right? And we have basically our departure dates built up here. Now, the next component, the next step normally is, right, we want to take those components that I had added into my product, right, and I want to go ahead and calculate the cost and have the system go ahead and spit out some sellable price, right? So I'm going to go ahead and calculate land prices, right? And I'm going to go ahead and select all my departures, but I have a way to go ahead and select a certain departure if I ever wanted to, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and click on calculate price. We do have a way to go ahead and calculate land cost only also. If you check this, this will basically calculate your land cost, but will not reflect or impact your selling price. Okay. So let's go ahead and click on calculate prices. Fantastic. So the system went ahead and said that now my cost is $720, right? Based on the markup that I had, the system is going to go ahead and give me a pricing for $889, right? So it automatically took my cost, it saw my markup, and it gave me a sellable price that we want to do. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Save All. Click on Close. And now we have our pricing. Now, when we're looking at our departure dates and prices also, you still have this grid setting, right, that you can go ahead and arrange columns. And you have ways to go ahead and update this information right from the cell here, okay? So if I want to go ahead and make an individual price change, I can simply go ahead and double click on that cell and say that this is going to be $909, right? So that's one way to update the record. I have ways to go ahead and update multiple rows with mass update. And when I'm updating my prices in here, right, I have a formula to, I can go ahead and it's going to be $919. Click on Save Later, right? I also have a way to go ahead and calculate some add-on pricing to it. So if I want to go ahead and say that I want to go ahead and add $10 to my pricing, right? I have a way to do that. I have a way to go ahead and subtract $10 from my pricing, multiply, divide, right? Or I can round it up, round it down, round it to the nearest, or round it to the nearest number. So if I wanted to go ahead and round it to the nearest, let's say 7, I can do that. And then now the system is going to go ahead and mark that as 887, which is the value that I have inputted in here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And we're going to go ahead and close that. Okay. So at the core of it, this is how we do that. You still have your display statuses, right? All those items still exist. So all is in good place here. Now, the next area that we have here is what we call our price history. Now, this is something that we introduced in Softrip Next, where the system basically gives you results of what your current price is, right? But what was it before and what that change was, okay? So let's say, you know, Jane Doe went ahead and updated the pricing in here. As you can see, as I update these records based on these departures, we have records of when it was added, what was it before. So it went from $0 to $889, right? And then it went from $889 to $909. And then now current price is what it is right now. So we have a really nice functionality to be able to see all the price changes that comes along the way. Okay. Now the next area that I want to kind of touch up on is our product audit option, right? When I click on the product audit, our system is going to go ahead and check all these components, all these calculations that we have. It'll check pricing dates, service details, service duration, making sure that everything is properly aligned within the itinerary. When I click on Start Audit, the system will either throw me an error saying that, hey, look, you know, a component that you have in your product, for example, the rate period is not matching, right? And then it'll spit out basically a warning about that. But in this case, since we're doing such a good job, right, everything seems to be good. The only warning that it's giving me is the product status is not yet set to active or internally yet for it to be sellable, right? Right now, that's the only item that it's giving me a warning on, okay? So another functionality that we also have here is what we call the mass add or remove optionals, right? Now, if you were to offer optional services, we have a way to go ahead and select that service that we have, get a list of those reservations, and apply changes. What this will do is basically it will go ahead and create history records in your product, and then you would go ahead and push those changes to your existing reservations to be able to go ahead and add those optional services. We also have process mass changes, right? Once your product is active, right, the process would basically allow you to go ahead and see those changes, right? So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and edit the product header real quick. I'm going to go ahead and activate this product. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a change onto one of the descriptions of these services, right? So instead of calling it transportation, we're going to call it transfer. I'll save all. Okay. Now, once I created this change, the system will go ahead and create a history record. Right. And as you can see, there's a history record in here, right? Once I select that, it tells me exactly what that change was. And then over here, when I click on Get Reservations, the system will pull any reservations that are affected by this. Now, based on the fact that there are no reservations at this point, right, the system is not going to really return anything for me to go ahead and trickle that change down to those bookings. But that's a way that we can go ahead and handle mass changes. Okay. Once you're done with processing the change, the system will go ahead and automatically close this history record that we are not able, it'll automatically go ahead and close that. Okay. Okay. So one other component that I want to kind of start talking about here is our daily itinerary section, which is something that I didn't have on the agenda, but I think as time allows it, I can kind of start talking about that. So Softrip is now our product application, and our landing pages is taking we still support the old format, which used to be just one long text of details. But right now, what we're doing here is we can build day-by-day itineraries, right, by each component by making it a lot more attractive looking. Okay. So when I click on the little plus sign in here, I can go ahead and enter it in on day one in departure policy, arriving in Dublin, right? I can build basically day-by-day itinerary in here, right? I can add some text input here, where I do have an HTML editor, right? Where I can make it bold. Oops, I can make it bold. I can go ahead and make it different colors if I wanted to, right? And I can also insert an image in here, okay? So if I wanted to ever bring in an image to my itinerary table, I can go ahead and do that. So in order to kind of present that to you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and jump on a product that I already had built with these itinerary details, and I kind of walk you through that process and give a little bit more details on that. So let's go ahead and manage the product. And as you can see, this is a bit of a more of a robust itinerary that we had built, right? I can go ahead and group services in here, but let's go ahead and jump onto our daily itinerary section. And what I had done here was basically I built day by day itinerary, right, for each day. And I put what we call a itinerary day header, and I also injected an image, right, that I can upload into our system. Now, one of the cool things here also is that if you one of the reasons why we also approach it this way is because we recognize that when you're building a product, let's say for a whole season, right, there are going to be some exceptions, right, on a certain departure date. So let's say during Christmas time, certain sites may be closed, right? So this gives us an opportunity based on the date of the service that you can make an exception as for that on day of that itinerary. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and say that I can cut on day 3, let's say, during Christmas time. Oh, this is 2021, so let's do 2023, 22, sorry. So the second, right? I can say, I can make an exception saying that Dublin is closed, but you will be taken to another site instead. Okay, so I will go ahead and delete that, and I will go ahead and click on Save Now. What the system is going to do right now is, as you can see, I have an itinerary with on day 3, right? But I have 2 separate texts. And that means that on December 23 departure to January 2 departures, if I have anything in these dates, the system will go ahead and give this itinerary on the landing page when you select that date, and also on your documentation as you send out the details to your customers. Okay, so let's see what this kind of looks like. Let's go ahead and open up the page. All right, cool. So as you can see, this is kind of our landing page right now, right? On our next platform, we have built our landing page with the highlight details, which is the CMS data, right? We have our rates and information of which property is being used. You have your departure dates listed, right? And then you can go ahead and select a date, for example, in here, right? And then you can see that your itinerary is displayed based on how I built it before on this package, right? So, as I select those departure dates, right, then the system will go ahead and change that itinerary details as needed on that landing page. And then we will go through our regular booking journey as we go through these details, okay? We do have other information we can expose on the landing page, which is something I think exciting that for you guys to see and experience in the future, okay? So that being said, let's take a look. I think we covered most of our items in here. So the platform can be open for any questions that you may have that I can touch up on. And you can do that via chat if you have any questions. Okay, so very good question. So the question is, does price history cover rate period deletions as well? Just saw update and add. Okay, so the price history only reflects in here the changes that you make in your departure dates and prices only. Okay, Tom. So if I was, your rate period changes will not reflect in here. The only way that would reflect is on this table is if you made a change to your rate period, right? Your cost went up from, let's say, 100 to 120, and you recalculated your cost, which reflects your pricing after you calculated your departure dates and prices, then that information would reflect here. But to its regular specific component changes, that will not be recorded in this section. All right, Edie, you said inventory, right? You wanted to kind of talk about that, I guess, right? So inventory creation, how do we go ahead and create inventory records, you mean? So in our system, right, we have ways to go ahead and review inventory records, right? When I click on the inventory record in here, this menu option, the system will go ahead and take us to our inventory records right here in our operation system. And we also have tour services inventory, which basically is a screen that allows me to go ahead and find any services that I have added and allow me to go ahead and create those inventory records right from the screen. So let me kind of try to demonstrate that to you with our prior package that we had. Let's see if that's going to work here. Let's see. For series. Okay. So, okay. All right, then in that scenario, let's see. Manage product. Right, so this is an FIT one. Okay, let me go back to our 9-day Ireland. This is a tour, even though we're just dealing with a regular FIT package. I will go ahead and try to explain that in here. So let's go ahead, and in order for me to kind of present this to you better, what I'll do is, Edie, I will add a new departure date. Let's take a look at our departure dates that we had in here. It goes up to October 23. So let's do October 4, let's say 2023. So I created a new departure in here, and what I'll do here is, I don't believe any inventory records have been created on that date. So I'll go to operations, and then we have our tour, we have our add and update inventory management item, right? So that's one thing that we want to probably do first. So what I'll do here is, as you can see, all these departure dates already has some sort of a contracted inventory management item that controls the number of seats on the bus, right? But as you can see, the last departure that I had created in here, it's in red text. Now, what that indicates to me is that no inventory record has been created for that date in particularly. So what I'll do is simply, I will go ahead and double click on the cell in here and enter in the values that I want to go ahead and make available, right? I will go ahead and put in my state. I will put in my release date, right? And then my release date will be closed. Once I click on save, this will go ahead and create the inventory management inventory record for me, okay? The red indicates that, so this is a better way for you to go ahead and see that if I had multiple departures that I'm building for the first time, and I had all these dates, I can go ahead and see exactly specific which departure I'm creating the inventory for, right? Now, another way of handling it is also is when we're talking about our tour services inventory, right? So then this dives into other components that you may be holding an allotment against, right? So if you have a hotel item, you added a new departure, but you don't have the block code, right? The allotment date for that yet. You can click on the tour service inventory menu option. And then this will give you a breakdown of all the properties that we have, right? So I have a little option in here called show missing inventory, right? And this tells me here that when I'm looking through these, and let's go ahead and service block code. Let's go ahead and group them by service block code. So what this here tells me is that I can go ahead and build now hotel allocation much easier this way, specific to this departures and this product, right? Then I would simply go ahead and add in the values that I want to add, right? I have mass add options. We'll make our release, we'll make our state available, and then release state as closed. Click on save. Now the system will go ahead and create the inventory records for those properties that I had just done. Okay. Was that good, Edie? Any other questions? Okay, if there are no any other questions, right, we can take some of the, if you think of any questions, you can contact us later on. And I hope this session was very helpful to you. If you have any other questions, comments, point of views, please do reach out to us. We will send out a survey, and we will also provide this recorded session in our knowledge base for you to have access to in the future. If you wish to join if you wish to see our knowledge base, right, on as one of our menu options, which is like a little question mark on the top right section here, right, has a little hyperlink to our knowledge center, right? And when you click on the knowledge center, it will take you to our articles where we can dive into some information in regards to our product application. And we have a number of articles that is provided with pictures, little quick recordings, right? We do have also videos and webinars, right? So our prior webinar that we had before about groups system, it remains in here. We also have workflow videos about how our application works overall. For example, we have a little video about our product management system and so on. Okay, so you all have access to this in our next platform. And this is an ongoing, knowledge center that we're constantly building. So there will be updates if there's any missing components there. We're always building up on it. Okay. Can you do a quick review on messages, operations messages? So Edie, that'll be probably a future session that we can do as part of the webinar also, which could be one of those items that we can cover on that. Okay. Which we will get into product events. How do we schedule those, messages automatically to be reported at a certain time? So we will certainly take that into consideration as our future webinar. Okay. All right. On that note, thank everyone for joining. And we'll see some new emails from us. Tom Lee is typing as I am saying goodbye. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining again. Take care.